Hello there, welcome back to the second session on generic career development from Technology Innovation Hub. Let's continue the explanation that we were doing. So let me share the screen. Yeah, this is what we just went through earlier, the sixpence explanation from that site about the early brain development supports lifetime of learning, right? Early brain development supports a lifetime of learning. So we went through this one. Even if you go to the slide, you can see, right, this is, we understood the brain circuit or the synapses, the way it forms, right, at a rapid pace from prenatal to first year to third year, right? So we know it starts from prenatal, even that is before birth, right? So after that, it goes in rapid pace. All right, now for this one, that's the expertise explanation, right? So let's take a look at that one as our next step from this video, the science of early childhood development. Let me click there, right? And here take you to this video. So before playing, let me just tell you, it is from the same video, the science of early childhood development, center on the developing child at Harvard University. So that is from where the video is, right? So let me play that one for you, right?
The healthy development of young children in the early years of life literally does provide a foundation for just about all of the challenging social problems that our society and other societies face. What we're learning, not just from behavioral and developmental research, but also now from exciting developments in neuroscience and molecular biology, is how much early experience from birth, in fact, even before birth, how much this experience literally gets into our bodies and shapes our learning capacities, our behaviors, and our physical and mental health. The brain is basically built from the bottom up. First, the brain builds basic circuits that are responsible for basic skills, and then more complex circuits are built on top of those basic circuits as we develop more complex skills. Biologically, the brain is prepared to be shaped by experience. It's expecting the experiences that a young child has to literally influence the formation of its circuitry. It's built into our biology. The interaction between genetics and experience that shapes brain architecture is embedded in the reciprocal relationships that children have with the adults in their lives. And by that we mean what we refer to as the serve and return nature of children's interaction with their adults. Development and the impact of experience on development is not a one-way street. It's a back and forth interaction. The brain is a highly integrated organ which has multiple sections that specialize in different kind of processes. So we have parts of the brain that are involved more in cognitive function and other parts that are involved in processing of emotion and parts involved in seeing and hearing. So if a child is emotionally kind of well put together and socially competent, that will affect more positive and productive learning. And if a child is preoccupied with fears or anxiety or is dealing with considerable stress, no matter how intellectually gifted that child might be, his or her learning is going to be impaired by that kind of emotional interference. So when we talk about healthy development in the early years, and particularly when we talk about preparing children to succeed in school, we cannot separate cognitive development from social and emotional development. You can't have one without the other. All development builds on what comes before. So when children experience stable, nurturing relationships, it fosters the development of healthy circuitry. And when children experience uncertainty or instability or abusive or neglectful relationships, it literally disrupts the circuitry and the brain's architecture as it's being built. Over time, this has a wear and tear effect. And the more stress you have, the more causes of stress, and the longer your stress response, the more likely you are to have a whole range of problems later on it can affect the immune system, it can affect the cardiovascular system, and this is why excessive prolonged stress early in life is associated with a higher prevalence later, not only of learning problems and behavior difficulties, but also physical and mental health problems. Because the brain is optimally flexible and plastic early in life, but as it develops its circuitry and refines its circuitry, it loses some of its flexibility, which is why intervening early is so important, because as we often say, when it comes to brain circuitry, it's better to get it right the first time than to try to fix it later.
All right. So I hope that was very informative and clearly explained, right? So you are very important. I think every statement, it's very valuable information was there. Very critical one was may just so that the adverse effect of stress, right? I mean, when the children are getting too much of stress at the initial stage, so because there's a level it can tolerate, right? So, I mean, if it is getting, the child is getting a positive attention from a parent so that it will let go, right? But if the child is not getting a positive approach from the parent or whatever, from the environment, right? So this prolonged adverse effect of the, I mean, stress, it can harm the entire body, the behavior. That's what it says, right? And because it will be toxic, right, for the entire functionality of the body, it will have long-term effects in the career, right? So because health matters, definitely. For us to have a better career, better skill development, better competency building, health matters. We need to have proper health, right? So that's why we are trying to understand how to keep that on also at a better stage, to have a better neural network in our brain from the early stages, right? Because it matters a lot, right? Okay, right. So let me continue. All right. Let's take a look at a few points here. You can see one thing, rapid brain development and building happens at early ages, especially within the first 3 years. It's very clear by looking at this diagram as well, right? And the timing of high quality early experience matters, definitely. Because the early experience, as child, I think in the previous video, there was a statement telling serve and return, right? So how do you react for the child response? It matters, right? How quality is that response is, right? Okay, so let's continue. And the early experience affect and matters neural architecture and health, right? So just a detailed explanation of the previous one. The neural architecture in the brain is all again in the previous video it was mentioned. The experiences heavily forces the way the neural architecture is developed within the brain, right? It's all about experiences, early learning experiences, right? Okay, so educate parents and caregivers about brain development during the earliest years, right? Educate parents and caregivers about brain development during the earliest years. Very true, right? Because, I mean, the adults have to have awareness of the way the children brain is developing. If they know that how it happens, then they can avoid the mistakes that they are doing, right? I mean, we have classic examples in the society in many cultures, different cultures, and different home cultures, right? So those are the reasons why certain children are performing well, right, at the school and the society. The behavior, we know the attitudes are totally different. Some are good, some are very low, some are average, some are high. And I mean, these are reasons for these differentiations, right? So at least if we can have a high quality understanding, if the parents can have a better level of understanding about the basics, right? Then their return to the children's demand, right, will be in an intelligent way, in a knowledgeable way. Caregivers, yeah, the people, and the daycare centers, the early child development centers, the way they respond to the children, right? It's very important for them to have this basic understanding about how the things are going to be at the early stages, right? Because that's very crucial time. Then yeah, we have developing milestone. Milestone. Let's come back to that. I show you another one in CDC. Yeah, we go there. Developing milestones are there at 2 months, 4 months from the early stages, right? And showing warmth and sensitivity. Yes, the warmth, the kindness, the loving situations, right? I mean, it's not no need to be harsh, right? No need to be harsh at small kids' demand. We can, we need to treat it as adults, right? Need to understand. That's why the sensitivity, how much, right? Because the way we respond, that's the way they are going to take in. Every response for them is going to create a brain circuit, right? That's the way. That's very critical, right? So we need to be very positively warm up sensitivity about our responses, right? What we are doing, right? Using appropriate discipline without harshness. This is what I just told, well disciplined, right? So, I mean, as adults, as teachers, whoever, people who are looking after the children, well disciplined. So we need to maintain a well disciplined culture in front of children. That's very careful, very careful, right? Because the examples that we are setting in front of them, they are going to learn from those things. And early ages, before 3 years, very critical, right? So that's why the home culture has to set up in a well disciplined way, right? Very intelligent environment, right? Okay, right. Let's learn those things by little rather than trying to explain everything in one place, right? Okay, so let's go to another explanation. This one, experiences build brain architecture. Experiences build brain architecture. Of course, in the previous video also, some explanation was there, but this is directly targeting that one, how the experiences are going to build the brain architecture. So let's take a look at that one as well. Right? Let me click on there, and it will take you to this place. Yeah, it is from experiences build brain architecture. It is from, again, Center on the Developing Child at Harvard University, right? So let me play that one for you.
A child's experiences during the earliest years of life have a lasting impact on the architecture of the developing brain. Genes provide the basic blueprint, but experiences shape the process that determines whether a child's brain will provide a strong or weak foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. During this important period of brain development, billions of brain cells called neurons send electrical signals to communicate with each other. These connections form circuits that become the basic foundation of brain architecture. Circuits and connections proliferate at a rapid pace and are reinforced through repeated use. Our experiences and environment dictate which circuits and connections get more use. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent. Meanwhile, connections that are used less fade away through a normal process called pruning. Well-used circuits create lightning-fast pathways for neural signals to travel across regions of the brain. Simple circuits form first, providing a foundation for more complex circuits to build on later. Through this process, neurons form strong circuits and connections for emotions, motor skills, behavioral control, logic, language, and memory during the early critical period of development. With repeated use, these circuits become more efficient and connect to other areas of the brain more rapidly. While they originate in specific areas of the brain, the circuits are interconnected. You can't have one type of skill without the others to support it. Like building a house, everything is connected, and what comes first forms a foundation for all that comes later.
Right, so that's a short video, right? So that's also gave a nice explanation about that, because you saw even though genes put the foundation, how to start on this circuit development, what continues further and what's to be dropped, this is known as the blooming and pruning process, right? So So blooming means more the experiences of that nature you gave to the brain is going to carry those circuits forward, right? The blooming. The pruning means the destruction of the circuits or the discontinuation of the circuit, because you are not giving that much of experience on that nature to the brain on that type of example, so it's not going to continue that circuit, or it's not going to proliferate. Proliferate means you are going to make the circuit much stronger. More you use, more it will continue. So that's kind of explanation was given in that video. All right, up next, what we have is this video that is PBS, The Secret Life of the Brain. So if I click it, it will take you to this YouTube channel, this one, yeah. It is the PBS, The Secret Life of the Brain, the baby's brain, right? And it is from this channel, one-to-one Chinese lessons. So just watch this video because they are going through details about the brain circuitry, further analyze the neurocells and the connections as well. Because the expertise explained that we learn about the brain from our brain, right? So that is understood. I mean, while we learn about the brain from our brain, right? And again, within, let's say, if we take a small piece of a brain, which is equal to a grain of a rice, right? So that very small piece contain around 10,000 neurocells, right? And each neurocell can make more than 10,000 connections. So we are talking about more than trillions of connections here, right? So all I explain, well explained in this video. So just take a look at it. Yeah. Right. So with that, we will end this session, and I'll meet you in the next session soon. All right. Have a great time. Bye.